Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for coming to this session. LinkedIn is thrilled to be part of LeWeb. So my name is Jennifer Whedon, and I work on the business development team at LinkedIn, and I'm focused on the marketing solutions business. So LinkedIn has done a lot recently to help companies and brands establish themselves on LinkedIn. So we put together a panel today to help you learn more about this and to give you some ideas of what interesting things people are doing. So I want to start by allowing our panelists to introduce themselves. And one note about our panelists, we're very excited this year because this is the first year Air France is a part of LeWeb, and we're very honored that they're part of our panel today. So with that, I will let Victoria introduce herself.
Can you hear me? Yes, you can. I'm Victoria. I'm co-founder and CEO of a company called Wildfire. We're a social media marketing technology company. So we provide a suite of tools that help companies with all aspects of their social media marketing, everything from growing your audience, engaging that audience and building loyalty, selling via social media, and obviously measuring your performance. We have thousands of clients, including many big brands here in Europe, ranging from Ubisoft, L'Oreal, Virgin Atlantic, Carlsberg, and many more. And we actually now have an office in London, so we're very excited to be selling actively into Europe.
I'm Mike Lazaro. I run a company called Buddy Media, which, like Wildfire, which is a great company, provides software to help companies power their connections. We believe there are two types of companies: companies that connect with consumers and power up those connections and tap into the connections, and companies that stick their head in the sand and ignore them. The first type of company is going to grow shareholder value. The second type is going to go out of business. We provide the software layer that lets you better connect with your customers by providing content and tracking the content and optimizing content and really communicating in a fundamentally kind of more social and personal way as a company. And we work with 8 out of the top 10 global brands, 250 employees based in New York with offices in San Francisco, London, and Singapore.
Bonjour. Hi, everyone. I'm Alain Damon. I'm the managing director for a media agency called Initiative. So we're a media network present pretty much everywhere in the world, working with clients such as Unilever, Tesco, Burger King. And what we do is we help our clients invest their money in a smart way, trying to reach their business goals. And more, our role is about helping them to transform and move from a situation where social media and digital, that they've been doing for quite a while now, is most of a tactical, siloed type of approach to things with separate teams, and move to a situation where social and social networks are totally integrated into everything that they do. And LinkedIn has been, sort of getting lots of attention right now, so I look forward to the discussion today.
Hello, it's okay. Hello, I'm Paul Champion, in charge of digital branding strategy at Air France. It includes several items directly linked to the brand, such as advertising, social media, or partnership.
Hi there, my name's Colin Smith. I run the UK sales team for marketing solutions in London. I work with agencies, brands, businesses, B2B advertisers, B2C advertisers to deliver amazing solutions for them, for our business and for their business.
Great. So I want to get started with a general question about driving brand engagement. In today's networked, always-on society, do you think it has gotten easier or harder for brands to build engagement with customers? So let's start with Paul.
It's a good question. In fact, I think it's easier to engage the dialogue with our customer because I think thanks to platforms like LinkedIn, of course, or Facebook, or YouTube, for instance, we can easily reach our customer. But because we can use an existing platform, and in fact, according to me, the technology is not a barrier. It was before, but right now, thanks to social platform, technology is not a barrier. So every company, every brand can use it. But in the same time, it's technically easy. But in the same time, as it's so easy, I think that the customer is overexposed. The customer is more selective. So we have, when we manage the brand, I think we have to tell the good story and to adapt the message on with a social approach, I think. So it's technically easy, but in terms of communication or marketing, we have to keep in mind that we are on social media and we must tell the good story and ensure the brand consistency.
Yep. And Alain, with all the work that you do with Initiative, with a lot of brands and companies, what do you think about this? How are brands breaking through the clutter?
I mean, just on the easiness of engagement. I mean, there's no doubt that it's never been so easy because I think we all removed the filters that we had, and you know, it's not so long ago that we had to fill in those 2-page questionnaires to sign into anything, you know, asking you tons of information that you didn't want to give. And now signing in, registering, doing anything is as simple as a click. The problem with that is we removed the filter that act as a sort of selection mechanism, really. So we knew that, you know, if I took the time of filling in a 2-pager, a questionnaire, I'm probably really interested in engaging with a brand or a product. Right now, I think there's a big question about the quality of the engagement, and from a, you know, if you use the word from a, or you think from a consumer standpoint, the lead, the quality of the leads, we've all been, and all the clients have been looking into building those, you know, as many fans or followers as possible, and sort of a race to have more than the other. And it makes sense, but at the same time, I would question whether, and that is the question clients are asking now, are all the fans so valuable? So I think that's the first thing, the quality of the engagement. And the second thing, to your point, is can we sustain the engagement? I mean, it's kind of easy to acquire, but how do you make sure that in a world where there's so much noise all the time and so many like temptation, it's like a kid in a sweet shop, really. You know, there's so many stuff all the time. And even if I'm interested in a group on LinkedIn or anything else, how long am I going to stay interested? And for brands, it's like how you need to manage to be clever and interesting all the time to sustain the engagement, which is not as easy as having teams and having great content. So I think there's a big question of the sustainability of the engagement.
Shall I add something on there? So I agree kind of with both of you. It's got easier and it's got harder. So we have platforms now, as everybody said, that allow us to do so. The challenge, kind of to both of your points, is whether people have understood how and why they want to use it, why they want to acquire followers, and what they're going to do with them, and whether they have a communication strategy to maintain and keep those users engaged with their brand, with their product, with their discussion point, whatever it is. And I think if you look back not so long ago, there were people who were just wanting some followers. I think we're starting to see now brands really starting to understand how to build audiences that make sense, how to build followers that make sense. One extra challenge that I think is important to understand as well is that it is always on. So I had a chat with a managing director of an agency the other day who said when he employs staff for his social media team, his contracts need to state that there will be shift work because some of their clients expect them to be working through the night, to be working weekends, because people are commenting, people are engaging, and people are talking all the way through the week, 24 hours a day. 7 days a week, etc. So it sounds like we're all saying there's loads more challenges, but the rewards are immense for doing so. That's all I have to say on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the other thing to note on the point of it being easier but more difficult is, you know, we've really gone from it being one to many to being a one-to-one kind of relationship now. So that's great because you can engage people in much more meaningful ways. But to your point, that's really challenging because it requires that a brand is able to customize their interactions for each and every person they're engaging with. It needs to be on all the time. So it requires a major commitment from a business and a real understanding of each customer is different and really trying to get at the heart of what's important to each particular customer. So the benefits are many, but the commitment is great.
So moving on, what metrics do you all focus on for driving brand engagement on social platforms? And beyond metrics, how else do you evaluate success? And again, let's maybe start with Paul.
Well, regarding indicators, I think that we have to define them because we have several indicators. Of course, every company, every announcer follow the same indicators. The first is, of course, the audience, number of people engaged within the program. But we know that this is not the only aim or the only indicators. The audience, as you mentioned this point, the audience is not the only point, but this is the first point. And the second is the quality of the engagement. For instance, we follow the number of people who share an information that we push. Globally, we follow a number of interaction, number of recommendation, and number of sharing, and the interaction rate. But as everybody knows, this issue, this topic is totally new. Technology changes very quickly. You propose new functionalities, so each time we must imagine a new indicators, and I think that it's not very easy for us, for an answer, because we must clearly understand what is the goal of the new functionality and how we can measure the efficiency of this new proposition, for instance. So right now, audience, of course, and engagement rate.
And Michael, Buddy Media seems to be doing some really interesting things in this area.
Thank you. I didn't hear the question, but
I can repeat it. How do brands measure engagement? And are there any other ways?
So I want to reiterate everything that was said, like exactly right. We started with fans, followers, like sheer numbers of audience, and then we moved to engagement, like how many people clicked, shared, posted, uploaded a photo, what we call primary actions, at Buddy Media. And then we moved into kind of, I think, what every technology that comes online moves in, which is more of the DR of like conversion. So we can show you how many people shared by product, by social net, and then what are the resulting traffic to the website, purchases, conversions, whatever that is. So we have that whole closed loop. I think the biggest trend that we're going to see in the next year, and hopefully we're a part of doing this, we announced a very large partnership with Comscore yesterday, which basically combines the kind of web-wide 2 million panel kind of audience that Comscore has, a really big company that's been around for a while, with a lot of the engagement tools and engagement data that Buddy Media has. And so the ability to measure paid, owned, and earned media all together in one business system and place values on different branded impressions, regardless of whether you paid for them, you own them because you posted to a Facebook page, or updated through LinkedIn or Twitter or anywhere else, or the holy grail, someone actually sold for you. They shared for you. They did something which exposed that action to your friends on LinkedIn, or this other small one called Facebook, which we seem to be ignoring so far as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think what we found is that what you measure really depends on your goals. So undoubtedly, we have some companies that are still at the stage of really trying to grow their audience, and they should be measuring the size of their audience, because if you don't have a big audience, you're shouting into a void, and you're not going to have a lot of success. If you're measuring your audience, though, you should also be looking at the demographics and understanding if you're getting the right kind of people. We have some clients who I would say actually really just care about the engagement and the branding. That's their goal. And they're not looking yet or perhaps ever to really, is it driving sales and taking it to that point. It's really a brand play for them. And so they're looking at engagement and sharing and voting and views and things that are really important to them. But we have increasingly a lot of our clients that are really at the point of saying, what is this actually generating for me in terms of ROI, in terms of sales? And it's been really exciting to see clients move to that stage and see amazing results. So, you know, we have a client we're working with recently, an online retailer who ran a campaign with Wildfire for over the course of a year, and 50% of the sales on their e-commerce site, and it's not a small company, were generated through the campaigns that they were running, the social media campaigns. They were tracking things like what percentage of the traffic browsing their e-commerce site was coming from social media. So I think we will increasingly move in that direction, but for some businesses, it will actually stay with really mention and share of voice and those kind of metrics. So it depends on your goals.
So switching gears a little bit, what type of campaigns do you guys think are particularly well suited to the LinkedIn platform? And for that, I think we should start with Colin.
Can you hear me? Hello? Thank you. So what type of campaigns do I think are particularly well suited to the LinkedIn platform? All of them, I guess, would be a starting point. So I guess, you know, you're going to hear this a lot on the panel, but it depends on what you're trying to achieve. So if you're trying to reach professionals, fundamentally, which is, you know, the context of LinkedIn, it's about where business happens, and you're trying to raise awareness amongst those people, and you're trying to find a particularly valuable audience targeted in a no wastage way, then we can deliver campaigns that offer that opportunity. If you want people to engage in your brand and become advocates of your product and follow what you're doing so that you can communicate to them as an owned media with earned media messages, then we can deliver campaigns that deliver to that. And if you want to position your brand or your company as a thought leader and engage in a conversation that is going on around your industry or around topics that your customers are interested in, then we can provide solutions to that as well. So, I mean, you know, that's very simply what I would, you know, argue. Depending on what your objectives are, we should be able to deliver something within that kind of remit.
One of the things that we're seeing with LinkedIn is this idea that you can be a publisher as a brand and get really valuable and important content out to your target audience, whether you are a massive kind of CPG company that can use a lot of your psychographic and demographic information to create audiences on LinkedIn and build those connections. So the kind of the like on Facebook, you know, the connection on LinkedIn. So build out LinkedIn as an audience and then continue through paid media and owned and earned kind of program content. And where it becomes a slam dunk is our clients like IBM and the B2B companies who, you know, want to take these white papers, start with an audience of 135 million, take it down to an audience of 100,000, and really target that into the marketplace, a community of LinkedIn, in a way I don't think it's available anywhere in the world at scale. There's smaller tech sites, obviously for IBM, but how do you reach the world's technology industry and thought leaders and CIOs through one global platform? LinkedIn's the only place I know of, other than Facebook, but Facebook also, like, the use case is a little different of why you're on Facebook.
Yeah, on specifically on IBM and all the IT companies, the reason I think LinkedIn is an extraordinary platform for them is that they're all within an ecosystem of partners, of distributors, of developers, and they've actually been talking to each other, networking way before social media existed, and LinkedIn enables them to accelerate that, and the number of groups you have on IBM, SAP, and those guys is just phenomenal. I think so from a B2B perspective, it's extraordinary. I think also LinkedIn provides an environment that's that's obviously different from, you know, Facebook is fun and entertaining, and obviously LinkedIn is more meaningful. And it's a more safe, it's more about trust. I mean, obviously, as a user, I'm going to be quite careful in how I engage and what I post. And I think it provides brands, and certain brands that have not been really active and quite reluctant to go to some social media environment, an environment that's much safer to actually communicate. And the last point that I think is absolutely credible, and there's a tipping point on LinkedIn right now, I don't know if you guys agree, is that until recently, LinkedIn was, you know, the way I used it, I would start the day by Facebook, And then I would have a few LinkedIn moments during the day or during the week. But I was mainly from an HR, perspective, building my leads, building my network. What I think we're starting to see happening now is that people start their day by LinkedIn as well. Because of LinkedIn Today, because of the aggregation of more content, because there are more users, because there's more stuff to actually watch, you can actually start your day by LinkedIn and then use Facebook as a break. And suddenly, if that happens more and more, this is, I think, changing the whole dynamics of LinkedIn in its ability to attract different type of brands that right now have been approaching only from an HR perspective.
Yeah, and I think there's something really interesting about people's networks in LinkedIn, which is certainly not the same on Facebook. So Facebook, I may be connected to family and people I went to high school with and friends and a whole bunch of people in a way that, I might be willing, and in fact I do engage with The Economist on Facebook. But if I share something with my LinkedIn network, with my Facebook network, my great uncle in New Zealand is probably not that interested in The Economist, and nor is the couple of people I went to high school with. But on LinkedIn, it's a bunch of my business school friends, it's colleagues, it's people that I've networked with at conferences who might very well be interested in that. So I think for B2B companies that are trying to reach perhaps a more educated audience, a more affluent audience, I think not only can you find those people, but when those people share, they are more likely to be sharing with people who are really interested in that. And in fact, we've been running some great, really successful campaigns on LinkedIn for companies like Cisco and GIA, and we've found that we've had campaigns where people have clicked, up to 3.4 people have clicked on each link that's shared on LinkedIn. That's really high. That's for any social network that we've seen, that's a really high level of sharing. So I think it's pretty exciting.
I just want to add something, in fact, because you mentioned the advantage of LinkedIn, but I think, in fact, that agency, creative agency and media agency, I think that they have to help us to understand, in fact, this support, because LinkedIn is, in the same time, a B2C support, because you can target people, but in the same time, it's a B2B support, because you can target specific profile, for instance, purchasing department or specific profile. But I think that media agency, have to help us to clearly understand the particularity of LinkedIn.
Be happy to help France anytime if you guys want to,
Global. I speaking globally, in fact, but.
No, but I think I think LinkedIn has changed so much as a platform, as an interface, and in terms of anything you offer in the last year or 6 months, that I think we all somehow getting used to all the things that it offers. But yeah.
And I think and I could probably speak for Victoria as well, it feels like the early days of the Facebook ecosystem, where we didn't really know what to do, but we knew it was big, and we didn't know it was going to be as big as it turned out to be, but we knew that there was some exciting things happening. And I honestly don't look at LinkedIn as B2B or B2C. I look at it as people, and the context that LinkedIn brings is just a different context. So the social graph wars, or that train, has left the station. Let's just all agree that Facebook owns the social graph, and probably will. There's 900 million people on the site. Now, everyone on LinkedIn, or maybe 90%, they're on Facebook, or they've seen Facebook, or they use Facebook. So it's the same person, but what's the mindset? How are they using it? What do they need? What are they looking for? Facebook, to me, it's funny, it means different things to different people. It's become less kind of fun and exciting and more just a utility, like the phone, right? It's something we use every day. Why? Because we use it. Everyone's there. It's easy to communicate. LinkedIn, I think, fulfills a need to kind of, ultimately, at least I'm speaking for me personally, it represents are you reaching your potential as a human being? Are you improving? Are you connecting? Are you growing? Which is a pretty powerful kind of platform to own, the platform of human empowerment, right?
Yes, exactly. So one thing I wanted to talk about is LinkedIn announced company status updates at Adweek in October. And for those of you in the audience that don't know what that is, LinkedIn has company pages which allow companies to set up a presence on LinkedIn. And we have over 2 million companies that have set up these pages on LinkedIn. And the status updates that we announced allow companies to basically directly message their followers. So for you guys on the panel, what do you think is the best way to use status updates on LinkedIn? For example, what type of messages, how frequent, how should companies think about status updates, since it's one of the newest offerings we have for companies on LinkedIn? And, anybody could speak to that. Colin, should we start with you?
So I think on this, it's about being as authentic as possible and about putting yourself in the mindset of the consumer on LinkedIn or the professional on LinkedIn. To Mike's point, what are they trying to get out of it? What are they trying to get there? Are they trying to enhance their professional life? Are they trying to gain insight that's going to help them and make them more successful? If you can nail that piece, deliver them content that is relevant and that is going to enhance their careers, then everything else should be relatively simple.
Yeah, and I did not just relevant to them, but relevant to your business. So I just think there's a great opportunity to create thought leadership. So I don't know, if you're in the security space and you can be the go-to place for getting the latest information about security issues, then you're really helping a set of people that are particularly interested in what it is that you do. So I think LinkedIn offers really a great opportunity for companies to establish thought leadership and be the go-to place to get relevant information for a set of professionals.
It's also really early, and pages worked on Facebook because people were addicted like crack to their news feed, right? Like the first thing you do when you wake up is your news feed. Before you go to bed, your news feed. You're walking to like a meeting, your news feed. Like that's where you're getting information. And then Twitter came along, and that's another feed. And right now, I wouldn't say kind of posts are the most, that's a central part of why people are on LinkedIn. Now, there's some people that LinkedIn have brought in, like Danny Roth, who was editor of Portfolio magazine, Fortune, who's an editorial guy looking at how people interact with the content. And I think the real opportunity in my mind long term is how do you be like the personal Wall Street Journal or business publication, even if it's not like the level of the Wall Street Journal, for 135 million people. Some of it will be provided by LinkedIn. Some of it will be provided by people you're just friends with in a different industry. Some of it will be provided by companies, and there will be kind of, I assume, you guys can talk about it, edge rank equivalents to kind of separate the signal from the noise. So it becomes a really valuable kind of stream that helps you do better in what you spend like 14 hours your day doing, like working. And it's really early. We looked recently, I forget when it was, we looked at like all of our data on wall posts, and a lot of our clients were posting between normal business hours, 9 to 5. Why? That's when social media managers actually work. But most of the engagement was happening like after hours, like when users were not working. They were just hanging out on Facebook. So kind of matching the message with the timing, with when to post, with how short, how long, is it questions, is it white papers? That's going to be something we probably work on together for like the next 4 years. And we basically haven't really started yet.
It's just the beginning.
Yeah, like I would say just do it. Put everything out there. What are people engaging with? And do more of that until we have more of like best practices like we do on Facebook and Twitter.
Yep. So another thing related to company pages on LinkedIn is this idea of acquiring followers for your company page. And so just throwing that question out to the panel, what do you guys think are some techniques for growing your followers on LinkedIn and also on other social platforms as well? And why is that important to acquire followers? So maybe Paul, we should start with you.
Of course, as you mentioned, we have to update our profile. It can be simple, but sometimes it's not be done. Update the profile, of course, and ask question. We saw that with simple question, you have a lot of interaction, and people follow you just because your account is alive, see as alive. And you, of course, you must so push relevant information, update your account, and incite people to share information or share experience, because people, they like to be seen as the people who know. So they like to share with them and share with the brand. And when the brand is seen as a brand share-minded, I think it's very, very efficient and positive. And the more you share, you discuss, you update your profile, the more they will follow you, because they will understand that they are understood.
I agree with that. I think it's really about managing your profile, your group, whatever it is, like you would manage a media, really. So you need to have some sort of editorial approach to things, even if it's only for your company profile and there's facts. I mean, obviously there are ways you need to have an angle. When you're into a group, you need to have a point of view, but also you need, and that's what media do well, you need to have news. You need to, or create news. You need to the discussion earlier, find ways of telling the audience that there's actually something happening. So questions such as not only the quality of the content, but also the timing at which you deliver the content. And we know there are rules, weekly or daily update and stuff like that. But more and more, I think there's studies that show that the moment at which do you deliver the content makes a tons of difference. But it's pretty much like a media, really. So I think that's for me the key mindset that people should have.
And I think just taking it to a really tactical level, we've seen clients have success running a campaign to give away a free white paper and then letting people know, hey, follow us and you'll be able to get access to more white papers and exclusive research like this. Certainly the chance to get access to exclusive content works across all different social networks. We've seen it as a great tactic on LinkedIn. The other thing, frankly, is that companies have employee bases, and encouraging employees to post to their network saying, hey, become a follower of my company is probably one of the easiest ways to start, quite frankly.
Those are all kind of largely organic ways of driving, or most of them were organic ways of driving, which I think are absolutely valid. But you need a tipping point. You need enough members to be following you, enough people to be following your company in order to get the scale for that to start to snowball. So one of the things that we can do is we can help you to accelerate that growth through our marketing solutions. So we run things like follower campaigns, recommendation campaigns that can allow you to target that very unique audience using the data that we have on LinkedIn to accelerate that growth.
And I was actually, I was going to say that same thing. I don't sell for LinkedIn. And the reason is because I've seen this with Twitter, Facebook, and now it's starting to happen with LinkedIn. Buy media now to grow your fan bases, because assume every year that goes by, the price goes up 2x. Okay, every other platform, the companies who waited, it just gets more expensive. It's not going to go down. It's not like, oh, it's $1 now. It's going down to 10 cents. I'm going to wait. Like, no, it's $10. And you don't buy it. The great thing about LinkedIn is they have the context, and you don't buy it as a kind of run-of-network social game promotion like a lot of the early days of Facebook. Like, we're going to buy out Farmville and get 40 million fans for like $3. Like, that's not going to be how you do it. You're going to take really good content. You need content. That's a consistent thing here. You're going to target that content, follow us, connect with us, and get access to this content, get access to this event, get access to whatever it is, and let people kind of select who's interested. You don't want what happened early on with Facebook, which now we pretty much flushed out of the system, is people bought fans, and they're like zombies right now. Like, they don't do anything because they're, whoever they are. They're people who don't speak your language, and you bought through social games. There's no targeting. And so, like, content with paid media today is worth something. It depends on your media budget. I can't tell you how much, but it's worth it. I know that our clients who have, several of like 100,000 like really targeted groups, really valuable audiences to continue to publish content to for free?
I think it's also about talking about growing your group membership or your followers. It's also about leveraging pay and earn and all the assets that you have. I mean, and LinkedIn too often and social media too often are operated separately. So you do a Facebook campaign or you do a Twitter campaign and then you do a LinkedIn campaign, and we know the user just doesn't think like that. So using and the assets that you have, promoting your group, promoting your profile on the social media campaigns and linking everything together makes tons of sense.
And I mean, one of the things that's interesting is if you looked at LinkedIn, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I haven't looked like in the last week or two, I think there are about 8 million financial service people on LinkedIn. Is that right? 8 million financial service professionals on LinkedIn.
That'd be a huge number.
Now, I think there are only 13 or 14 million globally. Okay, so Facebook may have everyone using it personally. They have 850 million people. LinkedIn has 1/8 the audience, but pretty much the 70% of that market that you want to reach in the context you want to reach it. So, I can't talk enough about context, the right content for the right audience, and ultimately, I wish we had the Facebook, like Christian was here on this panel, because it all works together. We're not in a world of mutual exclusivity. I know it's kind of, LinkedIn is doing the panel, and we're got to be nice to LinkedIn, but LinkedIn's a massive business, right?
They made more money. You can talk about other companies too. It's okay.
Yeah, but the thing is, massive business, it's always going to be around. Facebook, fucking incredible business. Google, search, awesome business, mobile, video. For you, your business is most important. Facebook has 850 million people, but kind of your business is more important. How do you connect everything together? And it all comes back to content, to paid media, to strategy, to stuff that really your teams and your agencies are going to work on together to make work.
Yep, and related to that, there's a lot of buzz right now around using online platforms, social platforms, to create really unique promotions and apps for your campaigns. So I'm curious to hear what you guys think around best practices around planning these kind of promotions and campaigns. And maybe we could start with Victoria with Wildfire.
Sure, yeah. So I think when it comes to promotions specifically, things like making it very simple and easy for someone to engage. So if it's a lead gen campaign and someone's able to download a white paper, let's say. By the way, we've run some great campaigns tied with LinkedIn ads and seen very strong ROI, very strong reduction in cost per lead. So I can vouch for that personally. But, don't ask for any more information than you really, really need. Ask for enough so that you know the person's genuinely interested, but don't ask for anything extraneous. The longer the form you have to fill out, the more people are going to drop out. Make it really obvious what you want people to do. We see a lot of companies running ads, driving people to a campaign, and there's a million different things you can do. There's lots of different buttons, and people don't know what to do, and they leave. They bounce. Make it social. So if you're giving away, let's say you're running a promotion to give away free conference tickets, why not say, hey, we're giving away 5 tickets for you and your colleagues to whatever, Dreamforce or whatever it may be. And then you're encouraged to go out and share that with your colleagues. Make it relevant. So we've found that the very best promotions are when you tap into things that people are really passionate about, because you think about why would someone share something? They'll usually share something because it says something about who they are, or because they think it will benefit their friends or their colleague network, or ideally both. So really think about a campaign and why would someone want to associate themselves with the campaign that you're running? Why would they actually want to share that? So really tap into things that people are passionate about. Those are certainly some of the best practices that we found are really important on LinkedIn, but also on other social networks.
Yep. Paul, do you have any thoughts on this one?
Yes, of course. In fact, regarding a specific offer, we would like to test it on social media, but at this stage, for policy distribution reason, it's not possible to have specific offer on a specific website. But we have tested LinkedIn on a display campaign, a classical display campaign, and I think that the most important for a specific action, like a unique campaign, is to define very clearly the KPI and the target audience, because the particularity of LinkedIn is the capacity of targeting a specific audience with a specific company, for instance, or specific profile. And I think if we want, because we want to succeed, we have to define before the campaign the KPI. I think it's a key point. Define before the KPI, and after we can do specific offer, classical display campaign.
No, just to add to this, I think there's no such thing as a social media promotion. I think there's a brand promotion, and the consumer, engage with different channels at different time. And too often we see, and I think it's great to experiment. Don't get me wrong, but too often we see a Facebook promotion, or we see a Twitter promotion, and then the rest of the media assets are not leveraged. So you go on the website, you don't find a promotion. So I think it's really important to make sure that you think from a consumer standpoint and leverage everything that you have to make sure that this promotion lives everywhere. And testing. I mean, it's always a rule in promotion before social media. It's great in direct marketing, anything to test as much as possible, and 10 different offers, different messages, different prices, different package, different whatever. And I think also there's something that I don't see that much that we should see more, because digital and social media obviously helps you to do that really well.
And I think we're moving away from a world where we led with the technology and the platform before the idea. And I'm partly to blame for it. Like, I take full responsibility, and Victoria takes the other half, because we, for a while, just did stuff on Facebook, because that's all we did as young companies. And that's where social media was. So it became, hey, we got to do a Facebook tab, a Facebook promotion, and we've done like probably combined 50,000 of them. And I think what we're seeing is basically like, what's a great idea that's literally going to like knock the face off your customers? Like, when they see it, they're going to go into catatonic shock and be rushed to the hospital. And then where should we put that idea, right? Like, let's come up with and that's why we're working more than ever so closely with agencies, because we don't, like on this side of the couch, we don't really do that. We basically, we're more tactical, but ideas that are simple and powerful and social by design, and just awesome ideas, stuff that you look at, you're like, wow, that is like such a clever, like great idea. And then put it in front of the right audience through paid media, your owned media, wherever it is. And LinkedIn's going to be a part of that, and so will other platforms. But like, start with that like one idea.
I would say though, you have to be careful with that though, because I think there's a pretty extensive graveyard of apps that were built on Facebook that a brand or an agency thought were going to be the next most amazing thing, and they were trying to differentiate from everybody else. It just totally didn't resonate.
Was that the idea, or what I'm trying to get at is like, I'm not selling, I don't build apps, so I'm not like selling an app idea. I'm just selling the idea that like really good ideas spread.
But
and
I think
and separate it from like the format of that, how that idea spreads. Come up with the idea and then say, what's the best way to get that idea into the public sphere?
But I think the key word you used was simple. So I think, and what you mentioned is it's really, really important to test. And so I think it's really important. So I think there's a difference between, yes, great ideas, but not a great idea that takes 6 months to implement, and then you get to the end of the 6 months and it's a total flop. I think it's really important to be able to do things quickly, iterate, find what resonates. And I agree, across different channels is really important. Actually, so I'll take some of the responsibility, but actually from the start of Wildfire, we enable companies to publish campaigns across all different channels, so Twitter, Facebook, websites, although sometimes there's a reason to differentiate. Sometimes publishing across everything is great.
Absolutely.
Sometimes you've really got to tailor it. For LinkedIn, I'd actually say that's probably an area where you need to be pretty tailored.
So. You touch on a very important point about the test and learn mentality, which is both a mindset but also an organization question as well. Because most of the marketers have grown into their role by thinking about a campaign for a long time, pre-testing the campaign for a long time, launching the campaign, and then wait to see the results, and next year do the following campaign. And I'm pushing it a bit further, but whereas obviously digital it requires to be constantly in beta and constantly testing and learning, which creates challenges because maybe they have to work 24/7, or they need to be extraordinarily reactive and culturally as well, create lots of challenges.
And by I think by good idea, like if it's going to take 6 months, is like by definition not a good idea. And I didn't mean to place blame on Victoria, other than I did want to. That's what I meant by didn't want to. But other than the fact that for a while, Facebook was the only game. Like we couldn't, like even though we had technology to put stuff elsewhere, like LinkedIn hadn't opened company pages, Twitter hadn't decided how they wanted to engage. So by default, every idea had to live within Facebook. And I know that kind of all of us, including Facebook, are thinking about a post-Facebook.com world. Like it's not just about, it may be about the social graph, because that's a social layer, but how do you take like really, as I get back, simple ideas, and some may live in one platform like LinkedIn. I think LinkedIn's a perfect platform for a lot of ideas that if you put elsewhere, they'd be like, why are you trying to get me a white paper? Like, I'm just trying to find the latest club for tonight. But others can live everywhere.
Yeah. So the theme of LeWeb is social, mobile, and local. How do you guys see brands starting to incorporate any of these themes, or specifically mobile, as a communication channel for their brand messages? So is it necessary to build a mobile app? What do you guys think about that?
Regarding mobile, of course, you are talking about Somolo, but we could say co-Somo, co for content, because I think the content is a key point. Of course, social is important, mobile too, but the content is very important because the content is a common point between mobile and social network, for instance. So I think the content is a key point, and the brand must be reachable. And of course, to be reachable, the mobile is the evidence. But regarding mobile, we have two pillars for us. On one hand, all services, because we must supply services to our client. So, for instance, booking a flight, flight status, real-time information. So, services approach on one hand. And on another hand, inspiration content, because mobile is a good support to provide, for instance, a city guide or something like this when people are in mobility situation. You need this kind of information. That's why I tell you that content is a key point for mobile, and we think about city guide or something like this to inspire consumer, because the brand is here to provide services, but to inspire the consumer too. And in tourism industry, inspire people is one of the key points.
Yeah, I think there's been a real challenge with just mobile app discovery, which I think has made it hard for a lot of brands to really succeed in terms of mobile apps. I think we were at a conference recently where we talked about this, so this will sound familiar to Mike. But I think there's some exciting things happening now that is going to make it a lot more interesting for brands to engage in mobile apps and mobile branding experiences. Things like QR codes. I know we experimented with QR codes, to be honest, at Wildfire more than a year ago. There wasn't great uptake, but I'm seeing them so much more now. It's much more familiar. So that means when you're walking into someone's store and there's a QR code, there's a much better chance now that someone actually has a QR reader, and they're going to engage with that, and then they can discover the app that you've created. NFC-enabled phones are becoming more and more common. Facebook has now announced that they're going to enable mobile apps to share into the newsfeed. So there's just a lot more ways that I think people are going to be able to discover, because the challenge was, I think there are companies that created interesting concepts, but then the only way for others to hear about it was word of mouth, and that's not as efficient as these online ways of sharing information. So a lot more bullish on that, I guess, coming into 2012 than I have seen previously.
And I think, too, we were talking about LinkedIn being in its infancy stage somehow. I mean, mobile marketing is definitely, an area where we're all learning and consumers are learning and brands are learning. And by the way, all the clients are doing mobile marketing because their consumers just, engage with them with mobile. So they're already doing it, whether they, know that or not. The thing that I think is interesting is I think we somehow have made, and it's a collective mistake, I don't know if you remember years ago when the web came in and we're doing banners, the first banners, and we had a tendency at agencies to do print banners or to do print, ads put on the web, so moving stuff, and we didn't know the language, we didn't know what to do, and somehow I feel sometimes mobile marketing or displays a bit like that. So you have digital teams trying to do that on mobile, and you have like things such as, I don't know if you guys have heard these statistics, like there's I think 40% of people that click on an ad that click by mistake. It's crazy. So there's something wrong, and I think we've mastered the way of doing it. Specifically on apps, I think apps is not necessarily the answer. I think everybody's been doing apps, and we know that people use like 3-4 apps all the time. So you have tons of apps that totally dead or zombies. I think display can work really well. Local search is extraordinary. QR code, augmented reality. I mean, there's a ton of stuff coming in. We're just starting to get a bit serious about it.
Yeah.
And one of the things about like social, mobile, local is I think these are layers. I don't think they're industries. Like we're a social media management system. We're just a management system, right? Like all of our businesses think about like, oh, social over here and like this is mobile, but like it has to be social by design or at least accessible to friends. You have to be accessible through mobile. So like if you're in charge of the booking engine, you kind of have to do mobile. Like it's not like, oh, that's a mobile team's thing. It's like, no, it's like your job to get your customers to book tickets. You have to figure out mobile. And local, the more local you go, I know at least on Facebook and Twitter, the higher the response rate. So our insurance company clients who do like, hey, we're this insurance company, we sell insurance and we're great, like they book very few premiums, but the agents that are empowered by our clients to use our platform to market. One agent recently did, like $50,000 in a month of like new premiums. So it's like, that's sort of like local of like, are people connecting with L'Oreal or are they connecting with a salon? That was the groundswell award that L'Oreal won of like empowering salons to connect with their customers because you kind of care about who cuts your hair. It doesn't look like it for me. I'm sorry for bringing that up. But it's, getting out of this, like, it's hard, but getting out of this siloed world where it's just like, it's got to be social, mobile, and local is critical, but it's like hard to get there. That's the issue.
Yep. So I want to leave a couple minutes for questions at the very end. So I'll end with one last question and maybe one last answer, which we'll go to Alain for. So what advice would you have for a brand that is relatively new to this kind of online marketing on a social platform and on LinkedIn, maybe new to LinkedIn as well? What are some easy things to try? How would a brand get started?
Well, the first thing I would advise is go talk to your HR department. And they've been probably the one managing the LinkedIn relationship so far. And make sure there's a nice discussion going on to make sure that there's a real strategy and usage on LinkedIn. The first thing I would do. The second thing, and we've, I think, talked about it quite a lot, is I would do as much as possible and test as much as possible. I mean, it's still cheap. We're still learning. There's new things coming out all the time. It's easy to do. There's lots of things that have not been tried, so I would really consider it as an area where there's lots of stuff that can be tried. I would really go for test and learn as much as possible, and really try things, fail fast, if possible, and get to a new stuff. And I will really would pay attention to integrating that, and this is something we discuss as much as possible within the overall social ecosystem, whatever we call about that. Because at the end of the day, I think we all mentioned that. Companies have a tendency to think departments and siloed, And I think consumers obviously don't think like that. So the more we can be in the head and think consumer, things will be probably much easier.
Anyone else before we move to questions?
Yes, just 5 points. In fact, I think the first point is to know why you are here, why you are doing this. I think it's a key point. The second point, I think, is the respect of the customer, respect of e-privacy. I think that the e-privacy is a key point. No intrusion, only permission, and adopt a long-term vision. And as you mentioned, I think you have to test and learn. So have a long-term vision, but act on short-term. And regarding an answer or brand, I think it's important to create a core team with several point of view, communication, of course, point of view, but marketing point of view, commercial point of view, and for LinkedIn, human resource point of view to manage a brand page. But I think it's important to have several departments involved in this project.
So I would only add to that very quickly, because I know you want to go to questions. Don't do it half-heartedly. You need to commit to it. You need to be sure that you have the resource in place, that you've thought about the implications, what you need to build, who you want there, how you're going to engage with them, and then how you're going to amplify that. If you haven't thought that stuff through and you haven't committed to it fully, it probably will be half-hearted and it won't last very long or go very well.
Great. Well, thank you to all of our panelists for participating. And we probably have time for maybe 1 or 2 quick questions if anybody has any. Are there any questions from the audience? Don't be shy.
Hi, I was wondering how well is LinkedIn doing in the Asian market and how to cater for the Asian market with LinkedIn?
Sure. So LinkedIn is growing very quickly in the Asian market. We just recently opened an office in Japan, and we have an office in Singapore. And what I can say is LinkedIn is fully committed to that market. And it's hard to answer one approach for all of Asia because I think every one of the markets has a unique and different aspect to it. I'm sorry, I can't hear.
China, for instance?
China. The question is, what are we doing about China? That's something that I'm not at liberty to talk about in detail right now, and it's something that LinkedIn is thinking about.
Thank you. You were discussing local, mobile, and social, but in the local subject, do you think that in the near future it would be helpful to, for instance, check in to an office in LinkedIn? And is it something that you would use or that you are working on, either as LinkedIn or as a partner? Would you use it? Would you think your clients want it?
It's a great idea. It's a great idea. I couldn't comment any more than that.
So we don't at LinkedIn talk about anything on our future roadmaps, so I can't speak to that feature specifically. But yeah, it sounds like a fabulous idea, and I'm sure our mobile team is busy thinking about, if not that specific idea, then things related to that. Any other questions? I think we're good. Well, thank you very much for participating in this, and see you all at LeWeb. Thank you.